The November wind cut through Annapolis like a blade, carrying the salt tang of the Chesapeake Bay across the pristine grounds of the U.S. Naval Academy. Sophia Hayes pulled her worn trench coat tighter, watching her breath cloud in the frigid air as she stood outside the wrought iron gates of Alumni Hall. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but your name isn't on the list." The young midshipman's voice was polite but firm, his white-gloved hand resting on the clipboard that apparently didn't include her existence. Behind him, through the grand windows, she could see the warm glow of the reception hall where her family was already gathering. Her father, Colonel Richard Hayes, stood tall in his dress blues, chest adorned with ribbons from 3 tours in Afghanistan. Her mother, Patricia, elegant in navy silk, laughed at something their cousin said. And there was Ethan, her younger brother, the golden child, about to receive the Distinguished Graduate Award. "There must be a mistake," Sophia said quietly, her fingers numb despite her leather gloves. "I'm Ethan Hayes' sister." The midshipman checked again, running his finger down the list. "I see Colonel Hayes, Mrs. Hayes, Major Hayes from Fort Bragg, Captain Hayes from Pendleton, but no Sophia Hayes." Of course not. Why would they remember to add the family disappointment to the VIP list? Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Where are you? Ceremony starts in 20 minutes. Don't be late like last time." Like last time. As if she'd been late to Marcus's promotion ceremony by choice, not because she'd been halfway around the world in a situation room, coordinating an extraction that saved 43 American lives. But she couldn't tell them that. She could never tell them anything. "Ma'am," the midshipman shifted uncomfortably. "I can call inside if you'd like." "No." Sophia stepped back from the gate. "No, that's fine." She found a bench across the street, the cold metal biting through her coat. From here, she could see the steady stream of naval officers and their families entering the hall. Each uniform told a story. Surface warfare pins, submarine dolphins, aviator wings. Her own story remained hidden beneath civilian clothes, locked behind classification stamps and need-to-know protocols. Her phone rang. "Ethan." "Soph, where the hell are you? Mom's having a fit." "There was a mix-up with the list," she said, watching an Admiral's sedan pull up to the entrance. "My name wasn't—" "Jesus, can't you handle anything? Look, just tell them you're my sister. It's not that hard." "I tried that." "Then try harder." "God, Sophia, it's one day, one important day. Can you just not make this about you?" The line went dead. Not make this about her. 20 years of not making anything about her. 20 years of sitting silent at family dinners while her brothers compared deployments, while her father dismissed her pencil-pushing job at the Office of Naval Intelligence, while her mother asked when she was going to do something meaningful with her life. If only they knew. Her secure phone, the one they didn't know about, vibrated against her ribs. She glanced at the encrypted message. "Package confirmed secure. Blackwater complete. Outstanding work, Admiral. Admiral." The word still felt surreal, even 6 months after her promotion. Rear Admiral Sophia Hayes, the youngest woman ever to achieve that rank in naval intelligence. Not that her family would ever know. Her work was too classified. Her real role too sensitive for family dinners and Facebook posts. She stood, ready to leave, when a black Suburban with government plates pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down. "Admiral Hayes?" The driver's face was familiar, one of the CIA security detail. The director would like a word. Her blood chilled. "Here? Now?" "He's inside, ma'am. Said it was time." Time for what? Her mind raced through possibilities, each more concerning than the last. Had something gone wrong with Blackwater? Was there a leak? "Tell him I'll be right there," she said, then paused. "Actually, tell him I can't get past the gate. My name's not on the list." The driver's expression darkened. "Wait here, ma'am." As the Suburban pulled away, Sophia caught her reflection in a window. Tired eyes, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, no makeup. She looked exactly like what her family thought she was. A nobody, a disappointment, a desk jockey who'd never amount to anything. But appearances, she'd learned, could be deceiving. Thunder rumbled overhead, and the first drops of rain began to fall. She turned up her collar and waited, wondering if today would finally be the day the truth came out. Inside Alumni Hall, through the rain-streaked windows, she could see her family taking their seats in the front row. Her mother kept checking her phone, probably wondering where her wayward daughter was. Her father sat rigid, every inch the colonel, while Ethan adjusted his uniform for the 100th time. They had no idea that 6 months ago, their invisible daughter had sat in the Situation Room while the president hung on her every word. They didn't know that the intelligence she'd gathered had prevented a catastrophic attack on 3 naval bases, including the one where Ethan was stationed. They'd never know about the months she'd spent cultivating assets, the risks she'd taken, the lives she'd saved. Or maybe they would. Maybe today, everything would change. The rain intensified, and Sophia Hayes stood alone in the storm, waiting for a reckoning 20 years in the making. Chapter 2. The Stranger in Dress Blues. The rain had shifted from drizzle to downpour by the time Sophia saw him. Through the sheets of water cascading off her umbrella, hastily purchased from a street vendor, she watched a figure emerge from Alumni Hall. He moved with purpose, his gait distinctive despite the weather. She knew that walk, had seen it in secure facilities from Langley to Pearl Harbor. Director Mitchell Harper of the CIA, wearing the uniform of a 3-star general, complete with a name tag reading Miller. Her secure phone buzzed. "Don't run!" As if she could. As if 20 years of training would let her flee from whatever was about to happen. Harper approached, his aide holding an umbrella that did little against the horizontal rain. Up close, she could see the calculated intensity in his eyes, the same look he'd had when he'd personally briefed her on Blackwater. "Admiral Hayes," his voice carried despite the storm. "My apologies for the dramatics. Sir." She straightened instinctively, muscle memory overriding confusion. "I wasn't aware you were attending. I wasn't, until I learned that a certain naval intelligence officer was being turned away at the door." His jaw tightened. "Your brother's ceremony provided convenient cover for something long overdue." A black sedan materialized at the curb. Harper gestured toward it. "Shall we?" It wasn't really a question. Sophia found herself in the back seat, rain drumming on the roof, facing the man who'd changed her life 6 years ago when he'd recruited her for intelligence work that went far beyond her official posting. "Operation Blackwater's final report crossed my desk yesterday," Harper said, producing a leather folder. 43 assets extracted, 3 terror cells neutralized, a network that took a decade to build, dismantled in 6 months, all coordinated by one officer. It was a team effort, sir. "Don't," his voice was sharp. "Don't diminish what you did. Not today." Sophia's phone lit up with another text from her mother. "This is unacceptable. Your father is furious." Harper glanced at the screen. "Your family doesn't know." It wasn't a question. "No, sir. The classification level goes beyond classification." Harper leaned back. "Tell me, Admiral, what does your family think you do?" "Data analysis, desk work, nothing important." The words tasted bitter. "My father calls it playing with computers while real sailors serve." Harper's expression darkened. "Your father, Colonel Richard Hayes, Silver Star, Bronze Star with Valor. A genuine hero by all accounts." "Yes, sir." "And yet he has no idea that his daughter orchestrated the intelligence operation that saved his younger son's life." Harper opened the folder, revealing a photograph of a naval base. "This was Ethan's posting 6 months ago, correct?" Sophia's throat tightened. "Yes, sir. Target number 3 on the attack list we intercepted. The intelligence you developed, the asset you personally ran for 18 months, he gave us the timeline. Without that, your brother and 400 other sailors would be dead." The words hung in the air between them. Sophia had known, intellectually, what Blackwater had prevented, but hearing it stated so bluntly, "They'll never know," she said quietly. "It's too classified." "Is it?" Harper smiled, a rare expression that transformed his face. "Admiral Hayes, do you know why I'm really here?" Before she could answer, he produced a second folder. This one bore the seal of the President of the United States. "Effective immediately, Operation Blackwater is being partially declassified. Strategic value, operational methods, asset identities all remain secret, but the operation's existence, its success, and its commanding officer." He handed her the folder. "That's being released." Sophia's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a press release, dated for tomorrow. Her name was there, her real rank, and enough details to make clear the magnitude of what she'd accomplished. "Why?" she managed. "Because," Harper said, his voice gentler now, "I've watched you disappear for 6 years. Watched you shrink yourself to fit their expectations, hide your light under a bushel of classification stamps. That ends today." Her phone rang. Ethan again. This time, Harper took it from her hand and answered. "Lieutenant Hayes? This is General Miller. Your sister is with me, discussing matters of national security. She'll join you when we're finished." He paused, listening to Ethan's sputtered response. "Yes, that's Sophia. Admiral Sophia Hayes. Perhaps you should inform your parents." He ended the call and handed the phone back. Sophia stared at him. "That was overdue." Harper checked his watch. "The ceremony starts in 10 minutes. I believe it's time we made an entrance." "Sir, I'm not in uniform. I'm not even on the list. Your uniform is in the trunk. As for the list, His smile turned predatory. I suspect they'll make an exception for a rear admiral. The sedan pulled up to the main entrance. Through the rain, Sophia could see confusion at the gate as security personnel noticed the government plates, the flags denoting a general officer's vehicle. One more thing, Harper said as an aide appeared with a garment bag. After the ceremony, there's someone who wants to meet you. The commander-in-chief was very impressed with Blackwater. Sophia's world tilted. The president? Turns out, saving American lives gets you noticed at the highest levels. Who knew? Harper's expression sobered. You've hidden long enough, Admiral. Time to show them who you really are. As she changed in a conference room hastily cleared by wide-eyed midshipmen, Sophia caught her reflection in the mirror. The uniform transformed her. Shoulder boards bearing a rear admiral's stars, ribbons she'd earned but never worn in front of family, the naval intelligence insignia that marked her as something more than a pencil pusher. Her phone had exploded with messages. Her mother. What's happening? Ethan says something about an admiral. Her father. What the hell is going on? She silenced it and walked toward the auditorium, Harper at her side. The midshipman from earlier was still at the door. His eyes widened as he took in her uniform, snapping to attention so fast he nearly dropped his clipboard. Admiral Hayes, ma'am, I apologize for earlier. I didn't. You followed protocol, midshipman. She returned his salute. Well done. Inside, she could see her family in the front row. Ethan twisted around in his seat, scanning the entrance. Her mother was on her phone, probably trying to call her. Her father sat rigid, a muscle jumping in his jaw. Ready? Harper asked. 20 years of invisibility. 20 years of letting them believe she was less than she was. 20 years of keeping secrets that had saved lives, including theirs. Yes, sir, Sophia said, and walked into the light. Chapter 3. The Revelation. The auditorium fell silent as they entered. 500 people, naval officers, families, dignitaries, turned to look at the unexpected interruption. Sophia felt the weight of their gaze, but it was her family's faces that held her attention. Her mother's phone slipped from her hand, clattering on the floor. Her father half rose from his seat, his colonel's bearing momentarily forgotten. But it was Ethan's expression that cut deepest, shock mixed with something that looked almost like fear. Director Harper, still in his General Miller persona, touched her elbow. Steady, Admiral. They walked down the center aisle, Sophia's heels clicking against the polished floor in rhythm with her heartbeat. She could hear the whispers starting, see people checking the stars on her shoulder boards, the ribbons on her chest. A commander she'd worked with at Pearl Harbor did a double take. An analyst from Langley actually gasped. The ceremony's host, Vice Admiral Patterson, stood frozen at the podium. Harper leaned close to him, whispered something. Patterson's eyes widened, then he nodded. Ladies and gentlemen, Patterson's voice boomed through the speakers. We have an unexpected honor today. Please welcome Rear Admiral Sophia Hayes, Office of Naval Intelligence, and General Miller, Joint Operations Command. The standing ovation was automatic, trained into every military member present. But Sophia saw the confusion in many faces. Who was this young female admiral they'd never heard of? Why was she here? She took her seat in the section reserved for flag officers, 3 rows behind her family. Her mother had turned fully around, staring. Sophia met her gaze, saw the questions there, and offered the smallest of nods. The ceremony continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Ethan received his award, but his acceptance speech was stilted, his eyes constantly finding Sophia in the crowd. When he thanked his family for their support, his voice cracked on the word family. Then Vice Admiral Patterson returned to the podium. Before we conclude, General Miller has requested to say a few words. Harper took the stage with the confidence of a man who'd briefed presidents and faced down international crises. The auditorium grew quiet. 6 months ago, he began, this nation faced a threat that could have cost hundreds of American lives. A coordinated attack on 3 naval installations was planned, funded, and nearly executed. It failed for one reason: exceptional intelligence work. Sophia's fingernails dug into her palms. This wasn't how classification worked. This wasn't. Operation Blackwater, Harper continued, was a masterclass in human intelligence. One officer spent 18 months developing assets, analyzing patterns, and connecting dots that others missed. When we discovered the threat, that same officer coordinated a response across 17 time zones, managing resources from multiple agencies, and ultimately dismantling a network that had taken our enemies a decade to build. He paused, scanning the audience. Lieutenant Hayes, would you stand, please? Ethan rose uncertainly. 6 months ago, you were stationed at Naval Base Kitsap. You were 3 days away from being one of 400 casualties in a planned attack. You're alive today because of the officer who led Blackwater. Harper's gaze found Sophia. Admiral Hayes, would you join me? The walk to the stage felt endless. Sophia was aware of every eye following her, every whispered question. Her family sat frozen, as if turned to stone. She took her place beside Harper, military bearing automatic despite the turmoil inside. Rear Admiral Sophia Hayes, Harper announced, is one of this nation's most valuable intelligence assets. For 6 years, she has operated in the shadows, protecting American lives while maintaining cover so deep that even her own family believed she was, quote, just pushing papers. A ripple went through the crowd. Someone, she thought it might be her cousin Marcus, actually laughed in disbelief. The details of Operation Blackwater remain classified, Harper continued. But I can tell you this. 43 intelligence assets were successfully extracted from hostile territory. 3 terror cells were neutralized before they could act. And yes, Lieutenant Hayes, your life was saved by your sister's work, though she could never tell you. Ethan sank back into his chair as if his legs had given out. Admiral Hayes has been awarded the Distinguished Intelligence Cross, the Navy Distinguished Service Medal, and the Defense Superior Service Medal, all in secret, all while enduring questions about when she would do something meaningful with her life. That last part was directed at her parents. Her mother's hand had covered her mouth. Her father's face had gone pale. But today, Harper said, by presidential directive, we acknowledge what should have been celebrated long ago. Admiral Hayes is not just a naval officer. She is a guardian who has stood watch in the darkness so that others could live in the light. She is a hero whose greatest sacrifice was letting those she loved most believe she was anything less. The silence was deafening. Then, from somewhere in the back, applause started. It spread like wildfire until the entire auditorium was on its feet. Everyone except her family, who remained seated, stunned. Harper leaned into the microphone one last time. There's one more thing. Admiral Hayes, the President of the United States requests the honor of your presence at the White House tomorrow morning. He has some thoughts on your next assignment. The applause crescendoed. Sophia stood there, ramrod straight as years of anonymity crumbled around her. She found Ethan's eyes, her little brother, who'd called her asking why she couldn't handle getting on a guest list. The realization in his face was devastating. When the applause finally died, Harper gestured for her to speak. She approached the microphone, her mind racing. I've spent my career in silence, she began, her voice steady despite everything. That was my duty, and I was honored to serve. But silence has a cost. She looked directly at her family. To those who thought I contributed nothing, who believed I was wasting my potential, you weren't wrong to think that. You saw what I could show you, and that wasn't much. But I need you to know that every missed dinner, every vague excuse, every time I seemed distracted or distant, I was serving, I was protecting, I was doing the job I couldn't tell you about. Her voice caught. And I would do it again, because that's what we do. We serve in shadows so others can stand in sunshine. We accept being misunderstood so others can sleep safely. That's the oath I took, and I've never regretted it. She stepped back from the microphone. The applause this time was different, softer, more thoughtful. She left the stage and walked back down the aisle, not to the flag officer section, but to where her family sat. Mom, she said quietly, extending her hand. We should talk. Patricia Hayes looked up at her daughter, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time in years. Then she took Sophia's hand and stood. Yes, her mother whispered, tears streaming down her face. Yes, we should. Chapter 4, The Truth Unmasked. The conference room, Vice Admiral Patterson had provided, was silent except for the rain still pattering against the windows. Sophia's family sat across from her at the polished table, the physical distance somehow emphasizing the emotional chasm 20 years in the making. Her father spoke first, his colonel's bearing intact, but his voice uncertain. The CIA director knows you by name. Yes. You're an admiral. Rear admiral, lower half. Promoted 6 months ago. 6 months. Richard Hayes' jaw tightened. When I called you a pencil pusher at Marcus's promotion ceremony, you didn't know. Because you didn't tell us. The words exploded from him. My God, Sophia. Do you have any idea what it's been like? Watching you drift through life. No ambition, no drive. Just that damn cubicle job. Richard. Her mother's voice was sharp. Patricia Hayes had composed herself, though tear tracks still marked her cheeks. She couldn't tell us. That's what classified means. Don't. Her father's hand slammed the table. Don't make excuses for her. 20 years of lies. Not lies, Sophia interrupted. Omissions. Necessary ones. Necessary? Ethan laughed bitterly. He'd been silent until now, still processing. Was it necessary to let us think you were a failure? To let me mock you for missing my graduation because you couldn't get time off? You were receiving your commission. I was in Yemen, running an extraction. The words hung between them. Ethan's face crumbled. Jesus, he whispered. Yemen. That was during the Civil War. That was dangerous. Yes. Sophia kept her voice level. 14 hours in country, 3 assets recovered. I made it back in time to watch your graduation on my phone from a military hospital in Germany. Hospital? Her mother's voice was faint. Minor injuries. Nothing permanent. She unconsciously touched her left shoulder, where the scar still ached in cold weather. This is insane. Marcus stood, pacing to the window. My sister is some kind of spy? This is really happening? Intelligence officer, Sophia corrected. Analysis, asset development, operation planning. Sometimes field work when necessary. When necessary, her father repeated. And it was necessary to let your family believe you were wasting your life? Dad, the childhood words slipped out. What would you have had me do? Compromise operational security? Risk lives so I could brag at Sunday dinner? You could have told us something. Anything. Could I? Sophia leaned forward. Dad, you've spent 30 years in the military. You know what classification means. You know what need to know means. Or did you tell Mom about every operation you ran in Afghanistan? Richard's face flushed. That's different. How? Because I wasn't lying to my family for 2 decades. No. You just came home with injuries you couldn't explain and nightmares you wouldn't discuss. Sophia's voice remained calm. We all keep secrets, Dad. Mine were just bigger. A knock interrupted them. Harper entered without waiting for permission, having shed his General Miller persona for his true identity. Director Mitchell Harper, CIA. He didn't offer his hand. I apologize for intruding, but there's something you need to understand. Richard Hayes straightened. Even as a colonel, facing the CIA director was intimidating. Your daughter, Harper said, is one of the finest intelligence officers I've ever worked with. She's also one of the most selfless. Do you know how many times I've tried to bring her to Langley? Offered her positions that would have made her career public? Celebrated? He didn't wait for an answer. 7 times. She refused every one because it would have meant leaving naval intelligence, and she believed she could do more good where she was. Hidden, unrecognized, protecting people like you without you ever knowing. Protecting us? Patricia asked. Harper pulled out his phone, showed them a photo. A house. Their house. 18 months ago, your home address appeared on a target list we intercepted. You were marked because of Colonel Hayes' service record. We prevented that attack. The intelligence that led us to that list? Your daughter developed it. The room went cold. Sophia hadn't known Harper was going to reveal that. You were in danger because of me? Richard's voice was hollow. We were saved because of her, Patricia corrected, staring at Sophia with new eyes. Among others. Harper pocketed his phone. Your daughter has personally saved hundreds of lives. She's disrupted terror networks, prevented attacks, and done it all while letting you believe she was nobody special. That takes a kind of strength I rarely see. Sir, Sophia started, but Harper held up a hand. They need to know, not the details. Those remain classified, but the cost. He turned back to her family. Every missed holiday, every vague excuse, every time she seemed unfocused or distant, she was carrying weights you can't imagine, making decisions that kept people alive, including all of you. Ethan had his head in his hands. That attack on Kitsap, you saved my life. I did my job. Stop. Ethan looked up, eyes red. Stop minimizing it. I've spent years, God, Soph, I've spent years thinking you were jealous of my career, thinking you were the family disappointment, and the whole time I was exactly where I needed to be, Sophia finished. Doing what needed to be done, Harper added. He checked his watch. Admiral Hayes, we need to leave for Washington in 2 hours. The president doesn't like to be kept waiting. He looked at her family. You should be proud. Your country is. He left, the door clicking shut behind him. The silence returned, but it was different now, heavier with truth instead of secrets. I'm sorry, Richard said finally. I'm sorry for every word, every judgment, every time I made you feel less than you are. You didn't know. I should have trusted, should have seen. He stopped, composed himself. Your mother always said there was more to you than met the eye. I was too proud to listen. We failed you, Patricia said quietly. We're your family. We should have believed in you even without knowing. You believed in who you could see, Sophia said. I showed you someone forgettable on purpose. That was my choice. Why? Marcus asked from the window. Why choose that? Sophia thought of the assets she'd developed, the networks she'd built, the lives hanging in the balance. Because being underestimated is the greatest weapon an intelligence officer has. Because pride is a luxury when lives are at stake. Because, she paused, finding the words. Because I'd rather be a disappointment to my family than have to explain why someone else's family is planning a funeral. The room absorbed that truth. Then Ethan stood, crossed to her, and pulled her into a hug that threatened her composure more than any interrogation ever had. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." One by one, they came to her. Her mother, tears fresh on her face. Marcus, awkward but sincere. Finally, her father, who stood before her at attention and rendered a salute that 30 years of service had perfected. "Admiral Hayes," he said formally. Then, voice breaking, "Daughter, I'm proud of you." Sophia returned the salute, then stepped into his embrace. For the first time in 20 years, she didn't have to make herself smaller, didn't have to deflect or minimize or hide. "I have to go," she said finally. "The president? Will you come to dinner Sunday?" her mother asked. "Your real self, I mean." "I'll try, but classified." "We know." Patricia managed a watery smile. "We'll take whatever we can get." As Sophia left the conference room, she found the entire graduating class lined up in the hallway. Ethan's classmates standing at attention. Someone started clapping, and again it spread until the thunder of applause followed her to the exit. At the door, the same midshipman from that morning stood at attention, rain still falling behind him. "Your car's ready, Admiral Hayes," he said crisply. Then, breaking protocol. "Ma'am, I'm sorry about earlier, and thank you. My brother was at Kitsap." Sophia paused. "What's your name, midshipman?" "Stevens, ma'am. Michael Stevens." "Keep following protocol, Midshipman Stevens, even when it's uncomfortable. That discipline will serve you well." "Yes, ma'am." She stepped into the rain, where a government sedan waited. As it pulled away, she looked back at Alumni Hall. Her family stood at the window, watching. Her father raised his hand, not a wave, but a gesture of respect between warriors. 20 years of shadows had ended in a storm of revelation. Tomorrow, she'd meet with the president. Tomorrow, new challenges would begin. But tonight, for the first time in her adult life, Sophia Hayes was seen. Her secure phone buzzed. A message from Harper. "Well done, Admiral. Now the real work begins." She smiled, rain streaming down the windows as Annapolis faded behind her. The real work had never stopped. But now, at least, she wouldn't face it alone. The storm was passing, and in its wake, truth illuminated what shadow had long concealed. A hero, finally recognized. A family, finally whole. And a woman who'd sacrificed recognition for duty, finally receiving both. As the lights of Washington beckoned in the distance, Rear Admiral Sophia Hayes looked forward, ready for whatever came next. She'd spent 20 years as nobody. Now it was time to show the world what somebody looked like. The sedan disappeared into the night, carrying its passenger toward a future no longer hidden in shadow, but blazing with purpose, bright as the stars on her shoulders.